The boy stepped onto the stage with torn shoes, trembling hands, and a voice no one expected, and by the time he finished singing Hotel California, the entire room was in tears, including the judges. Before we begin, if stories like this touch your heart, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, because sometimes, one story can change the way you see the world. The spotlight felt too bright for Ethan. He squinted as he walked to the center of the stage, his heartbeat echoing louder than the murmuring crowd. At just 13 years old, he carried a weight far heavier than his years. His shirt was neatly washed but faded, sleeves slightly too short. His jeans had been stitched more than once by his mother's careful hands. To most people, he looked like just another nervous kid chasing a dream. But behind those tired eyes was a story of struggle, loss, and quiet resilience. Ethan lived in a small, worn-out trailer on the edge of a forgotten town. His father had left when he was 6, disappearing without a goodbye. Since then, it had just been Ethan and his mom. She worked 2 jobs, cleaning offices at night and serving at a diner during the day, yet somehow, it was never enough. Bills piled up. Food was often scarce. But she never let Ethan see her cry, at least, not until recently. A few months ago, everything changed. His mother fell ill. At first, it was just fatigue. Then it became something worse. Hospital visits replaced dinner conversations. Silence replaced laughter. Ethan found himself cooking simple meals, managing the house, and sitting beside his mom as she struggled to smile through the pain. The doctors used words he didn't fully understand, but one thing was clear: time was no longer something they had plenty of. One night, as Ethan sat by her bedside, she reached for his hand. Her voice was weak, but her words were strong. "You have a gift," she whispered. "Don't let life take that away from you." She had always loved his singing. It was the one thing that brought light into their darkest days. That's when Ethan made a decision. He would audition for the biggest singing competition in the country. Not for fame. Not for money. But for her. He wanted her to see him shine, even if just once. Back on the stage, one of the judges leaned forward. "Tell us your name, son." "Ethan," he replied softly. "And why are you here today, Ethan?" He hesitated, glancing down at his worn shoes. I just want my mom to hear me sing on a big stage." The room fell silent. "What will you be singing?" another judge asked gently. "Hotel California." A few people exchanged curious looks. It wasn't a typical song choice for someone his age. The instrumental track began, soft and haunting. Ethan closed his eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath. And then he sang. His voice was raw, slightly shaky at first, but filled with something you couldn't teach: emotion. With every word, he wasn't just singing a song, he was telling his story. Pain, hope, longing, it all poured out of him like a river that had been waiting too long to flow. As he reached the chorus, something shifted. His voice grew stronger, richer, carrying a depth that made the audience lean forward in disbelief. It was as if the world disappeared for him, and all that remained was his love for his mother. The judges' expressions changed. One of them wiped away a tear. Another pressed their hand to their mouth, trying to hold back emotion. The crowd was completely still, captivated. By the time Ethan sang the final note, the silence was overwhelming. For a split second, no one moved. And then, like a wave crashing to shore, the entire room erupted into applause. A standing ovation. The judges stood, clapping, some with tears streaming down their faces. One of them spoke, voice trembling. "Ethan, that wasn't just singing. That was your heart. And we felt every second of it." Another judge leaned in. "Where is your mom right now?" Ethan swallowed hard. "She's in the hospital, watching." The cameras cut to a small hospital room where his mother lay in bed, eyes filled with tears as she watched her son on the screen. Nurses stood beside her, equally moved. Back on stage, Ethan could barely hold back his own tears. "I just wanted to make her proud." "You already have," the judge said softly. Then came the moment that would change everything. "I don't think we need to vote," one judge said. "Ethan, welcome to the next round." The golden confetti fell as the audience cheered even louder. Ethan covered his face, overwhelmed. For the first time in a long time, he smiled a real, genuine smile. But the story didn't end there. The video of his performance went viral overnight. Millions of people shared it. Messages of support flooded in from across the country. Donations began pouring in to help his mother's treatment. Doctors who had once been unsure now had resources they needed to try everything possible. Ethan kept singing, not just on stage, but at his mom's bedside. Each note carried hope. Each song became a promise. Weeks later, something incredible happened. His mother's condition began to improve. Slowly, steadily, she started to recover. The doctors called it remarkable. Ethan called it a miracle. One evening, as the sun set outside their hospital window, she held his hand again, this time with more strength. "You didn't just follow your dream," she said. "You saved mine." Ethan's journey continued, but he never forgot where he came from. He used his voice not just to perform, but to inspire. To remind people that even in the darkest moments, there is always a light waiting to be found. And it all started with a boy, a broken life, and a song that carried his heart to the world. So if this story moved you, if it reminded you of the power of hope, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Because stories like Ethan's aren't just meant to be watched, they're meant to be felt, shared, and remembered. The boy stepped onto the stage, clutching a microphone that looked too big for his shaking hands, and before he even sang a single note, one judge whispered, "Something about him feels different." By the end of his performance of Hotel California, there wasn't a single dry eye in the room. If stories like this touch your heart, take a second right now to like the video and subscribe to the channel, because sometimes, the smallest voices carry the biggest stories. His name was Noah Carter. 14 years old. Thin, quiet, and almost invisible in a world that never seemed to notice boys like him. His sneakers were worn down at the edges, the soles nearly peeling off. His hoodie hung loose, as if it had once belonged to someone bigger. But what stood out most wasn't his appearance, it was the way he looked at the stage. Not with excitement, but with desperation. Because for Noah, this wasn't just a performance. It was his last chance. Noah grew up in a small apartment in a rundown part of the city. The kind of place where sirens were more common than laughter, and hope felt like a luxury no one could afford. His father had been a construction worker, strong, kind, always humming old songs while fixing things around the house. "Music keeps the soul alive," he used to say. But one accident at work changed everything. Noah was just 9 when his father didn't come home. A fall. A hospital. Then silence. The kind of silence that changes a family forever. After that, life became a constant struggle. His mother worked endless hours at a grocery store, her hands rough, her eyes always tired. Bills stacked up like an impossible mountain. Some nights, dinner was just bread and tea. Other nights, nothing at all. But through it all, Noah had one escape. Music. He would sit by the cracked window of his room, listening to old songs on a second-hand radio his father had once fixed. And among all the music, one song always stayed with him, Hotel California. He didn't fully understand the lyrics at first, but he felt them. The loneliness. The confusion. The feeling of being trapped but still searching for a way out. It became his song. The song he sang when the lights went out. The song he whispered when his mother cried quietly in the next room. The song that reminded him of his father. Months before the audition, his mother fell sick. Stress, exhaustion, life had finally caught up with her. She tried to hide it, but Noah could see it in the way she struggled to stand, the way her smile became weaker each day. One evening, as rain tapped softly against the window, she looked at him and said, "Noah, you have your father's voice." He shook his head. "No, I don't." She smiled faintly. "You do. And one day, the world will hear it." That night, Noah made a decision. He would make sure she did. Back on the stage, one of the judges leaned forward. "What's your name, young man?" "Noah," he said, barely above a whisper. "And why are you here today, Noah?" He paused, his throat tightening. "For my mom, she's not well. I just want her to see me, do something right." The room fell silent again. "What will you be singing?" He looked down for a moment, then back up. "Hotel California." A soft murmur spread through the audience. It wasn't a typical choice for someone his age. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't easy. But Noah wasn't here to impress. He was here to feel. The music began. For a second, his voice trembled. You could hear the fear. The doubt. The weight of everything he carried. But then, something shifted. His voice deepened. Not in pitch, but in emotion. Each word came out like a confession. Like he wasn't singing to the judges, or the audience, or even the cameras, but to his mother. To his father. To himself. The room changed. People leaned forward, drawn into something they couldn't explain. A judge who had been scribbling notes slowly put their pen down. Another crossed their arms tightly, as if trying to hold themselves together. By the time